In the prosperous heart of Equatorial Guinea, Baltasar Ngonga's name was known in every corner, whispered in both admiration and resentment. A man of almost boundless wealth and influence, Baltasar had carved a place for himself among the elite. His businesses thrived under his watchful eye, and his lavish lifestyle spoke to the fortune he had amassed. But Baltasar's real power lay in his charm, his seemingly magical ability to make people feel that they were the most important in his life, even if just for a moment. And it was this charm, wrapped in wealth and charisma, that Baltasar wielded like a weapon to get whatever he desired. Baltasar moved through life like a king, his influence granting him access to people, places, and privileges that others could only dream of. He was bold and unapologetic, and his charm proved irresistible to many, especially women. Women of all ages and backgrounds were drawn to him, and he welcomed them all with open arms. Baltasar had a way of making each woman feel special, as though she alone mattered to him. But, behind closed doors, Baltasar carefully documented his encounters, recording each tryst as a sort of personal collection. He stored these recordings, unaware of the devastating role they would play in his future. Baltasar's relationships were not secret affairs hidden in the shadows. These women came to him willingly, each fully aware of his reputation and the risks of being seen with him. They were captivated by the life he offered, a life free from financial worries and full of luxury. Some came to him for security, others for the thrill, and still others for reasons they could not fully explain. And Baltasar, always the gracious host, treated them well, showering them with gifts, attention, and the promise of a life they could only imagine. Among his conquests were wives of government ministers, prominent businessmen, and even his own younger brother's wife. Each woman entered into these relationships knowingly, attracted by the allure of his wealth and the opportunities it presented. To them, Baltasar's power was both intimidating and irresistible. They understood that being with him might have consequences, but they told themselves that the benefits far outweighed the risks. One of these women was Marta, the wife of Baltasar's younger brother, José. José was a modest man, a quiet figure who respected his brother deeply, unaware of the betrayal that was unfolding in the shadows. Marta had always admired Baltasar's confidence and found herself drawn to the life he led. She knew what being with Baltasar would mean, knew the damage it might cause if her husband found out, but the temptation of wealth and excitement proved too strong. She told herself that no one would ever know, that it was just a secret between her and Baltasar. But the most shocking of all was Baltasar's relationship with Amina, the First Lady, the wife of the president himself. Amina was a woman who had grown up in privilege, yet even she found herself enchanted by Baltasar's world. Baltasar offered her something her status could not provide, a sense of freedom, of adventure, of stepping outside the careful image she had cultivated as the First Lady. Amina knew the stakes. She knew that being with Baltasar could destroy not only her own life but her husband's career and the stability of their family. But Baltasar's charm, his promises, his gifts, these things proved irresistible. Baltasar's staff included many young women as well, women who looked up to him, respected him, and feared him. He knew this and used it to his advantage, making them feel seen, important, and special. Many of these young women accepted his advances, drawn by the promise of financial support and security. They understood that their relationships with Baltasar were not built on love or even affection, but they justified it by telling themselves that it was a small price to pay for the stability and luxury he offered. As time passed, Baltasar's collection of recordings grew. Each tape was a trophy, a reminder of his influence and charm. The women he recorded knew of the tapes, and some found a strange sense of pride in being a part of his collection. They saw it as proof of their importance to him, unaware of the danger these tapes posed to their lives. Baltasar was careful, or so he thought, locking his tapes away in a hidden room, convinced that his secrets were safe. But, as the saying goes, secrets cannot remain hidden forever. One evening, a shadow slipped into Baltasar's estate. No one knew who it was or how they managed to bypass his security, but when they left, Baltasar's most prized possessions, his tapes, were gone. By morning, a single video had been uploaded online, showing Baltasar in a private moment with Marta, his brother's wife. The footage was unmistakable. People recognized both Baltasar and Marta, and within hours, the video spread like wildfire across social media. It was a scandal unlike anything the country had ever seen, and it was only the beginning. More videos followed, each one more shocking than the last. As people watched, horrified and fascinated, they began to recognize familiar faces, the wives of politicians, business leaders, and, most stunningly, the First Lady herself. The country was in an uproar. People felt betrayed, not just by Baltasar, but by the women who had knowingly entered into relationships with him. Families were torn apart, marriages shattered, and friendships ended as the videos revealed the depth of Baltasar's influence. The betrayal was personal for many, especially the husbands and families of the women involved. Baltasar tried desperately to control the situation, hiring hackers to remove the videos and paying off websites to take down the footage. But it was too late, the damage had been done. His reputation was ruined, and the wealth he had used to protect himself was now worthless in the face of public condemnation. One by one, the women he had been with faced the reality of their choices. Some lost their marriages, others were shunned by their families, and a few lost their jobs. Amina, the First Lady, was forced to resign from her public duties, her once respected name now associated with scandal. The people saw her not as a victim, but as a willing participant in a web of betrayal and deceit. As for Baltasar, his life continued to spiral. His business partners abandoned him, his assets were frozen, and his family disowned him. The president, furious over the betrayal, ordered an investigation into Baltasar's dealings, determined to destroy what little remained of his empire. But Baltasar's punishment didn't end with public humiliation and financial ruin. People began to say that he was cursed, that the spirits of those he had betrayed had come to haunt him. He became paranoid, convinced that he was being followed, that shadows lurked around every corner. At night, he saw faces in his dreams, the faces of the women who had willingly entered his life, who had accepted his gifts and his promises, and who now looked upon him with hatred and regret. Desperate and broken, Baltasar sought out a powerful healer, hoping that she could rid him of the spirits he believed were tormenting him. The healer listened to his story, and when he had finished, she shook her head. "Baltasar," she said, "your suffering is not the work of spirits. It is the weight of your own actions. You used your wealth to take what you wanted, never thinking of the harm you caused. Now, you must live with the consequences of your choices." Baltasar begged her for help, but the healer told him there was only one way to find peace. He would have to confess his sins publicly, return everything he had taken, and dedicate the rest of his life to helping those he had wronged. Only then, she said, could he hope to be free of his torment. In the end, Baltasar did as she instructed. He stood before the people, confessed his wrongdoings, and begged for forgiveness. But the people had not forgotten, and they did not forgive. Baltasar was left to live in solitude, haunted by the memories of those he had betrayed, his life reduced to a cautionary tale. And so, Baltasar Ingonga's name lived on, not as a man of wealth and power, but as a warning, a story of what happens when choices are driven by greed, pride, and a disregard for the lives of others. His tale became a reminder for all, that no matter how high one might climb, there is no escaping the consequences of one's actions.